Me when I hear about these P. Diddy allegations. Who's your Diddy and what does he do? I just got a nozzle from Philibot. It came in this box. This is the nozzle. Why? Not really a morning roundup this time because we kind of didn't have that much filament, and well, there's that. We do have these two items. Yet another shark coming out good, and the coffee lid, which didn't print right, was the only thing that didn't print right last time. One thing that's pretty exciting is we have all the components for the burger made. These being the other ones here, and we got the lettuce and tomato already painted, which is nice. But that is a project you're going to get to see, which is pretty cool. All right, we are officially on our last bin of raw plastic. That's what all these other bins were full of. This will be a new thing that you guys haven't seen. We order it by the pallet, and that, oh man, it's so bright. That is the box it comes in. You will notice this is a very large box. We order a lot of plastic at a time, and this will be done in about a week or so. I feel like maybe I should show more good reviews. This guy just left 2 positive reviews. If you remember that smaller green alien I shipped a few episodes ago, probably like 4 or 5 episodes ago, this is the one. I think it's time to go get some groceries again. Been eating out a little bit too much. I'm still trying to do the eating out on the 1st and the 15th, but when you're on a trip, you kind of have to. It's not something that's gonna absolutely break the bank. You saw me keeping track of my budget. You know what's up. But it's time to start eating cheap again. Anyone that's ever had a boost in sales or income knows that the easiest thing in the world to do is start spending more because you're earning more. Sales have somewhere between doubled and tripled since I did the thing in the episodes a while back. Longtime viewers know what I'm talking about. So we've had a great increase in revenue, but I don't want to just start spending more. Actually, let's get some coffee while we're out. Just good old Dunkin' D's. D-U-N-K-I-N-R-U-N, Dunkin' Run. Sometimes it's nice to have quality. Sometimes it's nice to have quantity. We're playing some good stuff today. Carnes. Quattro libres al pastor, por favor. Con piñas preferente. Place is so good. $26 for that, tortillas and some other stuff. And they're playing some good stuff today. It's funny how there was just a baseline of musicianship that, like, even in pop music like that was kind of necessary. Like, if you listen to what those bass players are typically doing, and even in those disco songs or the scratchy guitar things, like, it's not like the hardest thing in the world, but it's more complex, more intricate, harder to play than most stuff you're ever going to hear on the radio ever again, or streaming. You know, I'm a weirdo who still listens to terrestrial radio. But yeah, there used to be just a much higher bar. Reject modernity. Embrace tradition. Time to get into some normal 3D printing stuff. This is the Thresher Shark. It's kind of weird, kind of awesome. Almost has a deep sea creature kind of a look to it, but yeah. Well, I finally determined that actually it is the right time to take down the Christmas decorations and put up the spookies. I got these at the dollar store. I got these at the dollar store last year, and they are really dumb, but I like them, especially this guy. Time to clean up this Sharko. A little bit of stringing, but largely came out pretty nice. Classic skull waste baskets, just a little bit of cleanup. This guy is gonna be gray, I believe. I was just watching this podcast between two people that typically disagree a lot, and something sort of occurred to me. If you think about it, everyone that you've ever learned something from, at least something significant, something big, that person had a different perspective than you, by definition. Like, because if you had their perspective, what would you be learning? Like, this is the argument fundamentally against echo chambers. I try not to be in an ideological echo chamber, but yeah, you should just realize, like, of course, you're only going to learn from people that have a different perspective than you. And I feel like nobody's ever really put it quite that way when addressing the idea of just ideological capture, you know? Next, we're cleaning up this kitty cat. Well, all the burger components are done, so we are gonna start putting them together. This is the meat. You'll see that most of these components have a slope so that they can kind of stack on top of each other nicely. And once the stack is completed, you have a burger. Not a whole lot going on with this piece. It's pretty much almost flawless. This is the bottom bun to the burger. You may notice I stopped printing right in here. This is because it was a time crunch, but also because once you put the meat on the bun, you can't see that part. Get these little strings out of the way. We got the rest of the burger components to do here in a minute, but I remembered I really wanted to get eggs from the Mexican place we went today, and they just happened to be out. No huevos. So I think we're gonna do a Segway adventure and go grab some. Coffee lid coming along very nicely. Oh, it feels good out. Adding eggs to things has been kind of great. I don't sort of like eggs that much by themselves, but like fry up an egg and put that thing on a burger or mix it in with some tacos. You get those like breakfast taco type vibes. It's just really, really good. It's a thing that, like, it's a nice accent to a lot of things. I think it rained a bit earlier. Hopefully you don't hit any mud or anything. When I was a kid / teenager, I did thousands and thousands of prank phone calls. I did so many that me and my buddy actually we got to a point where we were starting to run out of phone numbers in the phone book. This is what kids did before the internet, everybody. All you young folks. It'd be funny to call up a barbershop and ask, like, do you guys accept insurance? The water park. Back at the shop, this is the cheese. It's just a minimal thing where you just see a little cheese peeking out. Turned out mostly pretty good. Some of this turned out a little weird for some reason, but you don't even really see that, so it's kind of fine. Finally, this is the top bun. You can see the little sesame seeds and stuff. Turned out pretty okay. Stringy underneath, but that will be easy to fix. All right, time to get the entire burger painted and then we will have Berg. I'll stack all the burger components we have made together so you can see what it's going to look like. Feast your eyes on this giant burger. Hand for scale. Who loves orange soda? I do. Here's the tacos from earlier from the place. We've got the al pastor carne, purple onions, doña salsa, and Salvadorian cream. This is super good and super cheap. Time to do a little recycling, finally. When sales are extremely busy, recycling is just one of those things that falls by the wayside because I can make filament without it. This effectively reduces the price, which is definitely something you want. It doesn't matter that much when sales are just going through the roof, but it's worth doing if you got some time. And that is exactly what we are going to do. So anyone that's newer, you probably haven't seen this yet, but we're doing this. Guys, remember this one from the thrift store a few episodes ago? It's going good. Did a bunch of recycling, messed up my hands some more. I think I'm going to go on a nice leisurely walk for a few minutes. You ever think about the fact that polio was like cured and it was like one of the biggest achievements ever for humanity, but nobody even thinks about that anymore or appreciates it at all? Something that I think is very sort of dualistic, sort of Taoistic, is that maybe our biggest need is difficulty itself. The default really materialist, sort of hyper-materialist view is this thing of like, all we need to do is just make sure everybody has enough material resources and everything they need in a basic needs kind of way. And that somehow if we just had all this, this would just, I don't want to say usher in the paradise, but basically this is a rubric for approaching every problem that we have societally. The solution to almost everything, and this isn't just political, but the solution to everything seems to always be, well, they didn't have enough of this, or they weren't provided enough of that, or they don't have enough power. But like, there's this criminally underrated thing where people, maybe the thing that messes them up the most is they are lacking difficulty. Or, put more precisely, they're not embracing and sort of squaring off against difficulty in their life. Like, there's a lot of people that have difficulty in their life, but they're not like forthright. They're not choosing to take it on voluntarily. Merely having difficulty in life isn't going to really bring about anything in you. Or maybe it will, but it's not going to bring about anything good in you. It's like difficulty can just make you more of what you were. It can exacerbate your negative attributes. It can make you more bitter. It can make you more resentful, especially. Or, if you're willing to be trained by it, it can bring about good character in you. No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful, but it yields a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who will be trained by it. So I guess one concern I sort of have when I see the direction of modernity is that perhaps what we're all sort of doing is trying to totally expunge all of the difficulty from life. Like, not to be cliche, but if you think about AI, eventually what AGI is going to do is expunge even the difficulty of thinking. like coming up with ideas or stretching the limits of what's possible to think up or do by humans. So what happens when we completely remove all of the difficulty even from thinking? As in, like, anything we could ever want to do that involves thought or reason becomes infinitely easy. How this all ties together for me is, I think in a scenario like that, it's going to be very much as it is now, in that the people that take responsibility and are willing to embrace difficulty will always find something to overcome, something to be grateful for, something to challenge themselves. Even if the difficulty they're seeking out is trying to be in a situation that is difficult intentionally. Like, those who are willing to be intentional and be steadfast and find meaningful problems to solve are always going to be okay as a whole. I mean, often in individual instances, maybe not, but those people tend to win. And everybody else that tries to abdicate personal responsibility, they were already going to lose. And maybe the consequences just get infinitely better for the first group and infinitely worse for the second group. But I think that's about as far into the future as I can think. Lastly, I'm going to say there should be a term for the following concept. There should be a term for the concept of how many years in the past you have to go before your present moment seems like a miracle. As in, like, if we took somebody from 100 years ago and brought them to the present, it would be pretty unimaginable. I don't know how you would define the parameters exactly, but at this point, we're at a point where you could take somebody from 20 years ago and they would be pretty surprised by our current moment. Because I know, I was there 20 years ago. I feel like what's happening is the amount of time you have to go into the past to not recognize the present is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Like, maybe in the 1950s, it was 50 years ago. 1900 and 1950 are extremely different. And then maybe it's like 1950s to the 80s or 90s. And then it's kind of like, if you go 1990 to 2005, that's a pretty big jump. Then 2005 to 2015 is maybe close to that same size of jump. And then like 2015 to now is a pretty huge difference. So it feels like that amount of years is getting smaller and smaller as we go forward in time. So in the future, it'll be hard to imagine, it'll be hard to remember what life was even like a year ago, because life will have changed that quickly. I don't know if that thought is really pointing at anything useful. It's just a thought. Now, if you go into the past, starting at 1900, maybe from 1900, you'd have to go to about 1830. 1900 to 1830 is a pretty huge difference. But then it's like, if you go early 1800s to 1700, that's not that big a difference at all. Maybe you'd have to go to about the year 1600 from the early 1800s before you start noticing a really big difference. 1611 is when the King James Bible, the first edition of it, was made. That's a pretty different era than the Napoleonic era, let's say. So 1600 to maybe 1400, 1300, but then it's like you have to go from maybe 1300 to 780, 880, early Middle Ages before you would really notice a difference. And then it's like there's not that much difference from that to the Roman Empire. I don't know. I should go this way. It's just an interesting observation. Back at the shop, Everything's printing right. The coffee lid looks like it's pretty close to done, 77%. We got more than enough to finish it there. And the burger and coffee, which are going to the same person, should be done tomorrow, so that's nice. Ugh. These are really comfortable, by the way. I mean, if you saw a movie in the 60s, you know what they feel like. Feeling pretty good these days. Still got a lot of sales, a lot more than before. But things are pretty peaceful. Things are basically making sense. I'm thankful that we're going to be getting a new load of plastic. Probably be ordering that within a week. It's almost $6,000. I'm glad I can afford that. I've got a new giant alien design that's printing right now. There's nothing much to see of it so far, but I'm feeling pretty good about that. We finally got enough big printers that can consistently make new prototypes, new products. Even if it's busy, that it should be pretty plausible to keep that up. I definitely got a lot to be grateful for, and I am. It feels really good. A lot of things are going right that for most of my life have not gone right. I'm grateful for these videos. This is just something I kind of did randomly, but feels like it's kind of becoming a thing. I'm also grateful that I don't, like, there's a lot of people that are trying to blow up their YouTube and get a full-time living off of it, which I think would be cool, but it's kind of convenient for me that if anything I ever make from YouTube is just going to be gravy. It's just going to be extra, and that is also a good feeling. I could go on and on, but things are finally going right. It's only taken 38 years. Tell me in the comments what you're grateful for today, and I will read them and maybe respond if they're extra spicy. Peace out.